I'm Dr. Eddy Pasquier. I'm a cancer researcher working in France, in the south of France, in Marseille. You see, I'm a little bit of a utopian. I don't like when things are, I would like to live in a perfect world, and I don't like things when they're unfair. And for me, childhood cancer is one of the most unfair diseases because a child when he's born hasn't done anything wrong, hasn't been smoking or drinking alcohol or anything, and the cancer can affect them, whatever their social background is or whatever their personal history or their parents' history is. So I really wanted to try to make a difference in the life of children with cancer and to try to fix this because I don't like when things are unfair. So my field of expertise originally is what we call angiogenesis. So it's the formation of blood vessels within the tumor. So a tumor can't grow without blood vessels, and that was my field of expertise, to try to block the formation of blood vessels within tumors. And from this work, which was very fundamental, understanding the mechanism of how the blood vessels are forming in the tumor and how we can prevent them with chemotherapy, step by step I started working in developing better treatments, less toxic treatments. And the specialty that I've been focusing on for the past 5 years is something we call drug repositioning. It's this idea of using drugs that are already approved for different medical conditions like diabetes or hypertension, and try to see if we could increase the efficacy of the current treatment for cancer using those drugs. So my biggest breakthrough so far has been to find that drugs that are commonly used to treat hypertension, they are called beta blockers. If you use them in combination with chemotherapy, you can really increase the efficacy of chemotherapy. What this means is that you can increase the rate of patients that you're going to cure, but you can also decrease the dose of chemotherapy that you're using, therefore decreasing the toxic side effects. So this has been extremely successful at the preclinical level, which is the level I'm working with, so in the lab. And we have now moved these experiments to the clinic, and we have several clinical trials underway using this combination of antihypertensive medicine with low-dose chemotherapy. The drugs that I'm working with are the drugs that I said are called beta blockers, and so the main one, the most famous one, is called propranolol. And it's a drug that's been around since the 70s and mostly used until this day for the treatment of hypertension. But recently it was discovered that it can be very effective at treating a benign tumor that's called hemangiomas. We often call them birthmarks, and they are these really red marks that some children can have. And most of the time they regress by themselves, but sometimes they don't. And when you use propranolol, you can induce the regression of those tumors, which are benign, very rapidly. And so based on this work, I came up with the hypothesis that maybe we could do the same thing in malignant tumors, so the real cancer. And it's been, like I said, very successful. And so it's actually this work that is bringing me to India, because a few years ago I presented the result of this work in an international conference in Israel, and Dr. Shripad Banavali was there, and he was quite impressed by the data, and he came to see me and asked me if I could work on a particular tumor which is extremely rare, which is called angiosarcoma, which is basically the aggressive version of the hemangioma, as I told you before. And Shripad told me that although it's rare, here at the Tata Memorial, he sees quite a lot of these patients, and really there's nothing that works for this disease. And so he asked me, could you try in your lab to see whether we can use propranolol with chemotherapeutic drugs to fight angiosarcoma? So which is what I did. I went back to my lab. I used the beta blocker in combination with the drugs that are normally used in the clinic for the treatment of angiosarcoma, and nothing happened very much. There was no synergy between the two drugs. And so I decided to try another drug, which is called vinblastine, which is not used at this stage for angiosarcoma. And we discovered there was a synergy there. So I went back to Dr. Banavali and I told him, I think the way to go is to use propranolol in combination with vinblastine. And so he designed a treatment protocol using metronomic chemotherapy, so low dose of vinblastine with the propranolol, and I started treating patients with that. And to this day, it's been extremely surprising the level of response we've had. because like I said, it's a disease that's extremely hard to treat, especially when it's metastatic and not operable. And in the first study that we've done, we've treated 7 patients, and 7 out of the 7 patients responded, either partially, and some of them responded completely. And nowadays, to this day, we've treated 15 patients, and again, 95% of them are responding. So we're not curing them yet, but we're extending their life by at least, we're doubling it. Basically, these patients would have a prognosis of maybe 6 to 8 months of life, and now we're expanding their lifespan to 18 months at least. So we're still working now on improving that even further, but already it's been a great success in the clinic. I must say I was really impressed by what I've seen here at the Tata Memorial Hospital. I think that a lot of researchers and medical oncologists, maybe in the Western world, sometimes either don't really pay attention to what's happening in India, or sometimes even worse, they're being quite condescending. And for me, it's the opposite. I keep telling Dr. Banavali that for me, the medical oncologists here in India are the true unsung heroes of medical oncology, because they're trying to do their absolute best with whatever means they have. So they might not be able to access the very expensive and new fancy drugs from the pharmaceutical industry, but their results is almost comparable to what you get in really rich hospital in the Western world. So I must say that I'm really impressed by this level of ingenuity and pragmatism that they have, and to get these amazing results with fewer means than in high-income countries. It's a very difficult field, the pediatric oncology, when you're developing new treatment, because it's a small market. And what drives drug development is the size of the market. So you get new drugs all the time for breast cancer, prostate cancer, because there's a lot of patients to treat, so a high potential for the pharmaceutical industry to make profits. With childhood cancer, it's more rare, there's less patients, so the pharmaceutical industry is not very interested in it. So that's why the work we're doing by repurposing drugs that could be used for other pathology in childhood cancer is very interesting, and I think that's the way to go, because we have to do it ourselves. The medical oncologists and the researchers like myself, we have to be able to develop this ourselves, because the pharmaceutical industry is not very interested in it. But we're having really, really great success, either by transferring drugs that are being developed for adult cancers to childhood cancer, or by doing what I just explained, which is using drugs that were not originally designed for cancer treatment but can be useful in these patients.